Hey, how's it going? My name is Mark. I'm the owner and operator of ToneGood Studio here in Champaign, Illinois. I'm going to give you a tour of my mixer room today, so let's get started. So as you can see here, I'm running Pro Tools 12 off of that little guy back there, the Mac Mini. I've got 16 gigs of RAM in there. I believe a 500 gigabyte hard drive. I'm also running a 2 terabyte external hard drive USB that's tucked back here in the rack. I'm running everything into the Furman for nice and clean power. Protects you from any kind of surges and everything like that. All my hardware, my computer, outboard gear, and everything is plugged into that. And under that, I've got the Apollo 8 Duo. I don't use a ton of plugins simultaneously, so this kind of does the trick for me. It's got, I guess I can later on down the road do a like a in-depth review on that if it's in demand from this video, hopefully. But it's got the two high Z inputs, the preamp, volume control, the gain control for the 4 built-in preamps on that, and then you've got the 8 line inputs for analog preamps. And then it's got the light pipe for 8 more via light pipe, which I have underneath that. Your monitor control over here onto the right. I'm just kind of going left to right here. And then your headphone outs. I run a headphone out to a headphone box, which I guess I'll take a look at here in a minute. And that kind of helps me with monitoring and any bands that I have that need any kind of monitoring control. That's kind of how I do it right now. I might get something more sophisticated in the future, but this is a home studio, so I kind of keep that. I don't feel like it's necessary for me to just go kind of crazy on a headphone monitoring system quite yet. Maybe my brain will take me there later down the road. But anyway, moving on to the Focusrite Octopre. It is the Mark II. Nice and simple, really clean pre's that just kind of help me get it in the box when and if I need it. If I'm going over that 8 input simultaneously threshold, these come into play, and they do a great job of it. Once again, nothing expensive, nothing crazy. These might get upgraded down the road. I know there's the UA 4710D that's a lot of home studios use and love, among some others out there that are a great product. This one is a great product. It's just happened to be the one that was in the budget at the time, so I went for it, and I recommend it. Moving on, I recently just integrated everything into this Nutric patch bay with all my outboard gear, and my outputs for my hardware preamps are integrated into this. I love having it. It just helps out with just the speed of hooking up outboard hardware stuff, which I still appreciate and use on a regular basis. And this just integrates it and makes it way faster. Onto the monitoring, I've got the Genelec M40s. They're 6.5 drivers, and I can't remember the size of the tweeters. I think they're, I can't remember, 1 3/4 maybe. Either way, these are great speakers. They've got a little hype to them down in the low mids, but that's what I'm used to. I used to monitor on the LSR JBLs, so I'm pretty accustomed to that. I upgraded. These are still, obviously they're an upgrade. Genelec has been making monitoring for ages, and they do it well. So it's a name I trusted, so I went with it. These are kind of cool. They've got like a crazy new composite for their shell, and a little bit more eco-friendly, which is something I try to keep my mind on. And they power off after 15 minutes, I believe, of no use, which is also nice because I'm really bad about turning stuff off sometimes, and these help me with that. Moving on, if I do use headphones, I'm using these DT770s. They're super comfortable. They help with fatigue. If I'm doing some critical like panning, I throw these on for that, and also just to get like more of a real world listening experience, to kind of hear what how most people are listening to music. I would have to say it's through headphones anymore. So this just gives me an idea of how the music is that I'm mixing or working on is predominantly going to be listened to. Um, Below that, I guess we'll get into some of the hardware I use. This is my 500 series box. Um, like I said, all this is integrated into my patch bay, so it's really easy to access and um, get going on the fly here. The DBX 560s over to the left, they live on kick and snare. Sometimes on bass, sometimes on like heavy metal or hardcore vocals. There's a pretty cool little trick. Maybe I'll go over sometime with that in another video that I like to use. That I've learned from my experience. Next to that, I'll move down and get a little bit more closer in. I guess on the 560 you can go over it. It's got the over easy on it. It's and the um, gain working from the bottom, the ratio, and then the threshold. It's super simple, easy compressor to use, nice and clean. It doesn't. It just controls the transients and helps you keep everything under control in the box. Right next to that is a pair of Cush Audio Electras. I was sold on these immediately. I watched. I can't remember the gentleman's name that runs Cush, but he put up a genius video demoing the Electras here, and I immediately bought two of them because I loved it, and I use them all the time on drum overheads. I use them all the time on room mics. They just bring everything to life, and I use them in the mastering chain too. Next to that is my ToneGood by Warm Audio, a great new budget. I would call them a budget brand that's out on the market, has been for years now, and what a trusted name they've become. Uh, this preamp is based on a 312 API style, but it's got so much more to it. It's got on the right there, or excuse me, on the left, it's got the output transformer. It's got a steel and nickel transformer, two discrete amplifiers, more of like a modern and more of like a like vintage warmer sound. It's got the output attenuation on it, DI. It's got an instrument in, line in, high Z, 48 volts, of course, for condenser mics, high pass filter, polarity switch, quote unquote tone. Just six more dBs for you out there, just giving it to you. And this is all wrapped up in the Rupert Neve R6 500 series rack that keeps the power clean. It's got a really nice meter on it. The back on these has a ton of features on it that we can go into in another video maybe. It's a little bit more in depth, but basically on the ground level, what this thing does is just keeps all your 500 series stuff powered appropriately and keeps it clean and all in one spot. Moving on, more warm audio. Sorry about the shadows there. I'm trying to do better about that. It's got the this is the tube EQ that they make. It's a Pultec. It is tube. It's got the boost, the high cut, or the cut frequency, and then the cut on there. The Q of the wave or the transient, the boost, high frequency control, and the high frequency cut. So this thing just works like your I believe it is the mid frequency Pultec. I used to have two, but I didn't have my patch bay yet. And so running cable from this and then rearranging cables got annoying, so I got rid of it. It does live on vocals, it lives on bass guitar a lot of the time, and I'll probably end up getting another one sometime now that I have just the simple reason of the patch bay. So Um, Under that is the ISA2 by Focusrite. These are based off of the Rupert Neve designed console built for George Martin a long time ago. And they sound great. A ton of headroom. I put them on overhead. I use these mainly on overheads and loud vocals and just anything that needs a ton of headroom. It's I hardly ever get these output monitors or the metering up past 12 minus 12 just because there's so much headroom, and I just use the headroom all the time. So moving on. So this is the little headphone box I told you I'd tell you about. It's just taking the headphone out from the Apollo into that and times four to the head any headphones mixes that you need. Um, I recommend them for any home studio. It's super useful, super inexpensive, and very easy to use. It's a great solution for home studios. I've got some artwork up from shows I've played, movies I love, Rounders. This was given to me by my good buddy. I'm a poker fanatic, so I hung this up down here. Uh, that's a Ralph Steadman piece. The art style might look familiar because of Hunter S. Thompson. He used Ralph Steadman in a lot of his works. This corner I use for vocals. There's more seating. It's just a chair, a chair. I do vocals back here if I need to while I build out my vocal booth. Over here is just a nice other work area. I've had engineers come down and do their work down here if they need to. It's just a desk that they can set their computer on separate from mine and get plugged in and going. I've got a MIDI controller. I'm getting more and more into Ableton, and so I've got a feeling that's going to get some more use. More storage, artwork, cables, stuff like that. Notes. The 2-inch tape is from a band I recorded in Chicago called Winder, and I did it at Electrical Audio, Steve Albini's studio, and I'm still very proud of that. I've got some treatment behind the M40s. These are bottom ported, so it just kind of just goes into the mopads here, but it's always good to have more treatment. More treatment back there behind the monitor. That's a brick wall, so more treatment, the better kind of on that. These are vaulted. This is vaulted right here above the listening area and above the speakers at like a 60-degree angle. No even walls in the place. And there's Dave on the really comfy couch that I have down here. And a candle and tape op on a coffee table for essential reading material. And that about does it for the mix room. I'm going to get to work on a video for my live room, and that's what will be next. Thanks for watching, guys.